Happy holidays. It's so nice to have you here at USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK. I'm the president, founder, and chief listening officer here at our network, where we celebrate elevated listening, the power of listening, the joy of listening, the joy of being heard. Our show today is The Listening Mentor, where we explore various topics with our fabulous expert, the star of our show. She is the Harley Street stress expert, and she helps people bust their stress. Let's welcome her onto the program. Hi, Caroline.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm lovely to be here. I'm feeling really festive, and it's just wonderful to be on USA Global TV and Radio here with you on a Friday. Always a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much. The pleasure is mine as well. I really enjoy Fridays. I think we have 8 or 9 shows, and every one is just interesting to me. So it's truly a gift. And we are in the holiday season, and as you know, we've explored before about how holidays can be difficult for people depending on the situation, depending on their perspective, and depending on a lot of things, their health, their financial security, etc. Something that actually throws another kind of wrench or dynamic into the situation is if you've been in a relationship with someone that you really care about the person and the relationship comes to an end. And usually one person wants it to keep going and the other person is the one who's decided. So especially during the holidays, people tend to get very blue. But I want to talk a little bit about your backgrounds and then we'll get into the topic. So, you've been working professionally for decades helping people, and you were in corporate and you left, you got your education, your certifications. And do you find that when the holidays come around, that people are more in need of speaking to someone, whether it's someone professional like yourself or just to reach out to anybody, really?
Yes, even more so. I can be really, really busy over the Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. The British have a holiday the following day after Christmas called Boxing Day. So that day is generally very busy. So the in-between Christmas and New Year, bank holidays tend to be very busy. And holidays, seasonal holidays that we have, like summer holidays, but particularly around Christmas, because that's when it's we're supposed to be together. We're supposed to be celebrating and be happy. And there's an expectation that everything is going well. When it's not going well, and we see everybody else in couples, we feel a challenge with it. So yes, I'm particularly busy. And I also take some time out to be with my family too. So that's a challenge in itself. I take Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and Christmas Eve out for my family. And then I come back into it all.
Thanks so much. And I'm really glad to hear that you take some time for yourself because that is really important. There's some of us who don't really take any time. I'm not going to mention any people, any names, but some of us just keep going and going. And we really do need that time to debrief, appreciate, reflect, and even dream about where we want to go, what we want to do. And then, of course, enjoy the present moment. So, what have you experienced in your own life during a breakup? So, and not at the holidays, but specifically, you care about someone or they don't care. One person cares more than the other. And then there's a breakup, which can be tough for both parties. What has been your experience personally? And then we'll get into professionally.
Personally, when there's a breakup, whether it's not a good relationship or a good relationship, it doesn't really matter. There is a level of loss of familiarity, especially if you're sharing a home with them, and then they leave the home. It then leaves you with a big space to fill. And times that you'd be cooking for 2, you're actually cooking for 1 yourself. And even though it's not an easy relationship that's broken up, it actually is still very challenging because it's a bereavement. It's a loss. It's a loss of the way that you would I would normally be in terms of my day and my activities. I remember when my marriage broke up, which was particularly difficult, and it wasn't a happy time for us. You know, it was not working. And we were really very good friends rather than husband and wife. And when he left, even though that relationship wasn't easy, I found it very difficult to stay in the home during the times that we would have been together, you know, in the living room, and used to walk around until it was really late, because it was just very difficult to be amongst all the wedding pictures. So I haven't had a particularly great time. And at the same time, it was a forced grieving and a forced bereavement that I had to deal with. And it made me stronger, and it made me more able to cope and allow myself to go through the loss.
Well, thank you again for your transparency. You're always showing up real and authentic, and I appreciate that. So I'll do a share as well. I've spent pretty much every single holiday season by myself, believe it or not. And I would say, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 years, I always spend the holidays alone. And when I say alone, I mean without a partner, without being in a relationship with someone. So I've just kind of gotten used to it, and I don't really think of it any other way. I don't feel like I'm missing anything, because that's what I'm used to. Now, there have been years in the past when I did feel a sense of sadness, a sense of missing out, a sense of loneliness. But as I've gotten older, I don't feel that way anymore, because I feel like now I can do whatever I want to do. So now, what about professionally? When someone comes to you and they share the fact that their loved one has broken up with them, they've decided they don't want to be in the relationship anymore, a lot of times there's blaming, there's anger, and there's animosity. And I feel like underneath that is a huge amount of pain, but yet it comes out through anger. What have you found in your work?
That's exactly right. There is a lot of anger, blame and shame, especially if one of the partners have cheated on the other one. There is a lot of, I'm better off without them, and at the same time, I'm really missing them. You know, life, especially if they're sharing a home, it's very difficult. And sometimes they just want to reach out and talk, you know, because they feel lonely. Those are the words I hear quite often. I feel lonely. And loneliness is an internal thing. You can be in a relationship and still be lonely. So when somebody's feeling lonely, this is an internal experience that is reflecting in their external world. So even though they're alone, they can actually move into a state of not being lonely, because it's a state of being that's internal that you can change.
Yes, it's very powerful. I've known people and know of people who purposefully will break up with someone before the holidays that come around this time of year. Reason being, no gift giving, don't have to go with their families wherever, don't have to take them anywhere. And it does feel a little cruel. But then at the same time, spending the holidays with someone you don't really want to be with, that's painful too.
Very, very much so. This is very common, because what it does is it forces you to be together at a time that you're not getting on. And that impetus of being with family and friends and being happy, and you're not happy. You know, relationships are for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And sometimes the reason is over. Sometimes the season is over. Maybe it was a summer romance that kept going. And maybe the person has moved on. And whatever the reason, season, or lifetime is, that relationship has come to an end. And no matter how much they want to make it okay, it's very difficult when you are enforced to be together in a family Christmassy situation where everybody's around and having fun. Because if you're not feeling the sensory of fun and pleasure and that romance in the relationship, it can actually be very, very difficult, very challenging, where we land up in relationships where the person might be sniping at each other. They might be giving cross words to each other or being shameful to each other. So it's never a good place. And that enforced time of being with a family and being happy, being cheery at a time that they're just not feeling it, is very, very difficult, and not one that I would endorse or say that is a good thing to be in.
Thank you, Caroline. So, for our audience members who may be going through something and they're thinking, you know what, I just can't stand her anymore. I don't want to spend another day. Is there any direction or advice, professional advice, that you can give, knowing that the relationship is not working for this person? And also knowing at the same time that if they stay in the relationship through the holidays to keep peace or whatever the case, maybe to appease their guilt, sense of guilt, that's not going to be a good experience. And then also if they decide to break up with the person, that might be a painful experience too. So what's one to do?
To be authentic, to be honest, because if you're not happy, then it shows out. It shows out in your responses, the way that you feel. And if you're not feeling happy, then it's not a good place to be. We're only here once. We're here for a short time. And it's important to be happy in that time. Many people stay together in relationships way, way beyond the time that they really should have stayed in the relationship if they are unhappy. And it's because there's an expectation. They don't want to hurt someone, but you're actually hurting someone by staying in the relationship. You're hurting yourself and the other person. Sometimes, and I know it's difficult, it's a bit like ripping off a plaster, Band-Aid plaster, is to actually take it off quickly, have the conversation and be genuinely authentic in how you're feeling, because it might just be the other person feels the same. It might just be the other person isn't happy and they don't know what to do about it. And so both of you stay quiet and suffer. So to be honest in your communication and say, because when you speak in your authentic truth, it allows the other person the same space to be genuine and authentic in what's happening for them too.
Excellent. I can appreciate that. Let's say that the person is authentic. The one person tells the other person, listen, I don't see us having a future together anymore. There's no sense staying together another minute. I love you. I care about you, et cetera, et cetera. Does it make sense to have boundaries and a hard line in the sand that I know you're upset about it. I don't want us to have any communication for a period of time so we can both process this? Or should you say, hey, I'm still here for you. You can call me. We can get together as friends. What makes the most sense?
Well, everybody's situation is different. It might be so not easy to be with a person that, a clean break is the best break to have. If there's a marriage, for instance, then there are things to clear up. There's the home, the selling of the property. If there's children involved, you have to stay, in inverted commas, friends, because it's important to be in a sensitive level of communication with each other, a kind communication with each other. So sometimes it's easy to have a clean break. And if that's what works for you, then go for it. Have that clean break, because that makes it easier for you to move on rather than being in the emotions of that friendship space that one person wants to be in a friendship and the other person wants the relationship. That almost gives false hope. But when you have to align yourself with responsibilities like children, selling the home, and sorting out valuables, furniture, if you're selling up the home, then you have to kind of remain on some level of respectable and sensitive communication. Otherwise, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So it depends if you're in a marriage or a committed relationship, as opposed to two single people. They were committed to each other, but yet they can move on and not have to sell property and do a lot of the things that you're talking about. Now, what advice do you have when someone is really grieving and they manifest it through angry social media posts or by going and uh, speaking derogatorily to the person's friends or the person's network? And they're not helping themselves, obviously, but yet they're so mad about it that they just want to go tell the world so that the world will think this other person is less than.
It's very easy to do that, especially in our social media times, to just write a post and then, sort of slate the ex-partner. That doesn't bode well, because what you're doing is you're showing how you're going to be with any future partner or relationship. So that doesn't bode well in terms of your character. You're almost assassinating your own character by doing that, even if you feel very just and very in the space of saying, I really have the right to run him down or her down. It's important to have some sense of semblance that a social media post is up forever. People will see it. People may not comment. They might be a little bit more wary about getting close to you. And also, while you're speaking badly about one person, other people may assume, and it wouldn't be unrealistic to assume, that if any other relationship breaks down, that you might be offensive to the next relationship. I would recommend containing the anger externally by not doing it on social media and having that conversation, that angry conversation, either with yourself, in a phone call with a friend that you really trust and that you care, that cares about you and you care about them, because sharing is caring. A problem shared is a problem halved. I don't feel that going on social media and having a rant and rave actually helps you or the other person, and it doesn't make you look great.
Really good points. And we see this all the time, even with celebrities and people who are social media influencers. And you have to think to yourself, wow, I imagine they're talking about me behind my back, or, somebody that you know. And I love the point that you made, that a future partner is going to look and see, wow, if this is how this person's behaving, I don't want to get involved with them. So it just causes sort of a ripple effect of negative energy.
Very much so. And also, further on that when you're pointing the finger out to that person, you're actually pointing three fingers back to the power of the thumb back to you. So you're actually hurting yourself even more than you're hurting the person. It's like you're holding the hot coal in your hand, and it's burning you. It isn't burning the other person. It's actually affecting you, and it's causing you more trauma and upset. Yes, I do agree that anger is very, very good to have, and punch a cushion, or sort of scream and shout, or do a run and really kind of stamp it out or dance it out. These are more healthier ways. But when you point the finger at the other person, you're really, really hurting yourself in a big way.
Absolutely. So please think about your actions before you take them, because also whatever you put out there, whatever you do is going to come back to you, but it's going to be out there forever. And one day you may wake up and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I did that. I was so out of control. When we're out of control, we realize it, but we can't stop ourselves. We just go crazy. And then at some point in the future, typically, I know with me, I've looked back and said, oh my gosh. And I'm upset with myself that I let myself get out of control. So let's talk a little bit about some positive things that people can do. We understand now all the things that we shouldn't do. What are some things that we can do, let's say, right after we get the news that I'm sorry, but I don't want to be in this relationship with you anymore. Right afterwards, and then maybe some increased time, we start to think there's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not. And the truth is, it may have nothing to do with us. It may be that the other person has outgrown the relationship, but yet we feel abandoned. What are some things that we can do to start to reframe our message that we're giving to ourselves?
You bring up a really excellent topic, abandonment. When there is a breakdown in a relationship and that feeling that we get is abandonment, that will be something that's innately in us that we're experiencing over and over again. And this will be something from our childhood. There may be a feeling of abandonment from a relationship breakup with the parents, or a sibling rivalry. That there will be something in your childhood that created that feeling of abandonment. And unless it's looked at and treated in terms of managing and expressing the feelings and emotions from that initial trauma, what we will do is we will keep recreating that experience of abandonment. So the first thing I would suggest is be in awareness of the feelings and emotions that you're feeling. Is it familiar? If it's familiar, reach out and talk to somebody that, if you're feeling ready to do that, an expert, somebody who can help you with that trauma, because the abandonment is a response that you're experiencing. It's your feeling, your response and emotion that you are experiencing. The other thing that I would suggest is to look at being with people that care. That's really important, to reach out to people that you know, that care about you, that love you, whether they be of the same sex or opposite sex. People really genuinely want to know that you're okay. Anybody that's having a breakup, and we're all human, breakups happen, you would be surprised how many people will be there for you. I remember when I split up with my very, very first boyfriend when I was 17. I had just a trolley load of friends that came out and said, you are not going to mope around in your home, with your family. You're going to come out with us. And I landed up going out to different country clubs because I lived near the country. There was a lot of school friends I'd known all my life, and they just kind of picked me up and made sure that I was okay. And that's really important. So your friends, they care. Reach out and go out rather than wallowing into that situation of being on your own. The other thing that I would suggest is it's really important to talk through any feelings that you have with somebody that's a trusty friend, somebody who you really, really trust and respect. And it might just be that you just need a sounding board, somebody to express how you're feeling, where that person will be that listening friend. It might be that you need some advice, but nobody can really tell you what to do. You can only do that in the space of where you are and how you want to progress. It's really important to understand that when you reach out to a friend, and if they turn around and tell you, oh, it's a waste of space, he's no good, she's no good, she did this, he did that. If you get into that space where they're making judgments on that ex-partner and you get back with them, you will then not trust that friend. So it's really important to speak to somebody that you really care about and that will listen with empathy, with compassion, with understanding, without asking you to make any rash decisions. The other thing that's really important is to express your emotions. If you don't express your emotions, they then turn on you into the body and they start giving you challenges. So I had a breakup in a relationship a long time ago. It was when I was about 27. I was going to get married to them. And so I was expecting this wonderful outcome. And I found out that he was already in a relationship, which just broke my heart. And at 27, I found it very, very difficult to express the emotions because I was still really in love with him. And what happened was I lost hair due to stress, and I lost 2 stone in weight because I didn't handle the emotions and handle the trauma that had been caused by that I felt like I'd just been betrayed, even though he was already in a relationship. I felt that, he'd lied to me, and that was very difficult. And I didn't handle it very well at all. And so it's important to express your emotions and feelings. It's very, very key. The other thing that I would also suggest is that you take space, whatever space you need to be on your own, to be with people, to be social. It's really important to stay with friends who really care.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. You went exactly where my mind was going also, which is someone calls you to tell you that their partner broke up with them, and instead of, oh my gosh, I'm here for you, well, she was a creep anyway, he was a bum, I thought all along, blah blah blah. And that's part of what you and I are advocating for, is not providing a solution, not judging. And in that moment, maybe the hurt person, the person who feels they've been rejected, maybe that gives them a little bit of a, oh yeah, I guess he wasn't. But then we also think to ourselves, wait a minute, I was with this person for 7 or 8 years, 10 years, 20, and now you're saying what you're saying, so you must have been thinking that the whole time. Or do you really even like me? I'm wondering. The mind starts to go all over the place. But yet sometimes that's another one of those things, we don't know what to say, so we just open our mouth and say the first thing that comes out.
Yeah. It's very detrimental, because if that person gets back with the partner, then you will be ostracized from that friendship, and you will seem like the worst one. So it's very important to be that caring, respectful friend, rather than being the judging friend, because we can all see people's faults. We'll have faults of our own. We can always see the other person's faults. But for all the faults, that person is in a relationship for a reason. They're in a relationship because they have an affection and love for that person. If we all liked and loved the same people, there wouldn't be enough of the same person to go around. We're all individuals and we're human. And so what one person likes about one person might not be liked about another person. So it's really important to be respectful, because we don't actually know what's going on in their world. It might be that they're having a super meltdown personally, a crisis. This happens a lot with men particularly, and women, that are having a middle-aged crisis, and everything's fallen apart. They're not where they thought they should be at that time of life, and they have, I've heard the expression, they have less years ahead of them than the ones that they've lived. And I find that that's something that can be very upsetting for people. They get to a certain age. Certainly when somebody reaches 40, I've heard this happen. And when somebody reaches 50, that there is then sometimes the onslaught of an internal anxiety or depression, that they haven't achieved all the things that they wanted to achieve. And so we don't know what's going on in that person's world. So it's important to be respectful, even though we're going through our own loss, our own challenges. It's really important to say that it just might not be about us. It might be that there's something going on for that person. It might be a bereavement, sickness in the family. Who knows what it is? So it's not always, the breakup is not always about you did something wrong.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. Now, what about when we're talking about being that compassionate, understanding friend? What if you are compassionate, understanding, but the relationship between the two people is on again, off again? Oh, we're breaking up. Oh, we're in love. We're breaking up. And they're coming to you every time as a friend to tell you that Bobby did XYZ and now we're back together. And then a couple months go by and it's the same thing. As a friend, do you have the right, I should say, when we talk about setting boundaries, is it okay? Is it acceptable? Is it self-care, preservation to set a boundary and say, Caroline, I really am here for you. I love you. I want to support you. I would rather not be the one that gets the phone call when you and XYZ break up, get back together. I'm here for you, but I don't want to be that person getting the call.
This is a very personal response, because if you are really close friends and you're seeing your friends suffer, sometimes you want to be there for them and you do care enough to be there for them. When it's a revolving door, I call it, that they're, in and out of that relationship, and oh, he's done it again or she's done it again, and oh, I'm never going back with them, and then like a month later or even a week later, they're back together again. This is the revolving relationship door. It's important to make a decision as their friend to decide whether you want to be the person that they're always leaning on, or whether you want to call time on it and say, hey, I really care about you. I just can't handle this continual drama of your relationship. I've got enough of my own things going on, because sometimes your life might be challenging too, and you can't really cope with that person coming back time and time again. So it's about creating what feels right for you in terms of your own personal boundaries. That the person will keep doing that until they are fed up and it's time for them to actually see that the relationship is ending. Some people do that for years and years and years, and the partner knows that they're leaning on particular people and saying the same thing over and over again. So they will have some conscious level of behavior and insight as to that's going on.
It's a lot to take in, isn't it? It's difficult to be a good friend and at the same time look out for yourself and have those boundaries, because even as you were saying it about how you can react to the person saying, listen, I don't want to be part of your situation, that's hard to say. It's really hard to say, and it might be hard to hear as well. But I feel like that's the part about being authentic and being real, is that instead of pretending that everything's okay and that I don't mind you calling me over and over and telling me about this situation, I'm thinking to myself, I hope that she doesn't call me and tell me that same story over. I hope I don't run into them. Right? It's because now what you've done is you created this distance between you and the person, because you feel sort of like you're a trash can, just like dump the trash in the trash can. Now, for some people, they might be able to listen without getting emotionally involved and without having any kind of reaction. But again, I think that comes to speaking to a professional like yourself, where you're not jeopardizing a relationship with someone.
Absolutely. I'm in total agreement. I did have a friendship many years ago when my marriage was very difficult. And that friend said, look, I don't really want to know the details. I have a really good friendship with your husband, and I don't really want to get in the middle of it. And I thought that was her being so authentically true to herself and to me, that I respected the fact that she said that. I thought that was, brave. And at the same time, I thought, well, I get that. I don't want you to choose sides, and at the same time, I also felt that wasn't a person that I could go and share the challenges that I was having. And so I actually felt that was a very respectful friendship. I didn't condemn her for it. I thought it was amazing that she felt that much care and that much love, that she said that she couldn't handle hearing things, because the friendship, she had a really good friendship with him too. So there is something in there that, to have friends that can see both sides, that you're not making your friends choose whether it's your side or their side. And I felt that was very encouraging, because it made it so that my friends weren't taking sides.
Very interesting. What do you make of it when two people consistently break up and then get back together? Does that mean that the relationship is flawed and is not going to be successful? Or is it just that some people maybe like drama?
I think maybe liking drama might be one of the things.
Because some people might find it exciting.
Well, when there is that going on and we see that kind of relationship in our friendships, it's always very difficult to watch because we feel the hurt they're feeling, and then we feel the bliss that they feel when they get back together. It's almost like the breakup makes the makeup even better. And some people almost break up to make up because it's like a clear out.
Right.
And so, you know, I do find, you know, I'm smiling because I do know a few couples that are like that. And they just love to be in that space. And maybe that is the way they are, that they both explode and then everything gets cleared and then everything becomes wonderful again. You know, maybe that is their way, you know, and it works. And, you know, for me, that wouldn't work. But, you know, for some people, that is their way. And who are we to say that's not right if they always get back together and they're having a lovely Christmas, but they have a blowout and a complete in the summer, you know, because we know those kind of couples. And I just think that it's probably their release, their way of releasing what's not working. They're clear out. I don't like this, I don't like that. Well, I don't like this and I don't like that. And you did this and you did that. And it clears out. And then the making up becomes incredibly, you know, sort of powerful for them.
Yeah.
And that's the only way that they know how to do that clear out.
And what about the person who is literally, and I know you've shared about this, literally ghosted by someone? So the person doesn't actually give the opportunity to explain they don't want to be with you anymore or that the relationship is over. They just disappear. And I've had this happen to me. And after calls to the police department, calls to the hospital, calls to like anywhere that I could think of that the person might be, it dawned on me that the person just didn't want to see me anymore, but they never told me. And that's like a horrible place to be because you go through not knowing if they were injured or hurt or abducted or something to just finding out when you see them somewhere with another person that, wow, they just dumped me.
It's a fascinating thing. It's become a thing that people do in our times, you know, in our current times. And I've not actually had that happen in terms of a relationship because I'd want to have that conversation. I've seen that it has happened to people, and you know, I wouldn't know how to handle that apart from, oh well, his loss, not mine, you know, or her loss, not mine, you know, because if they've just done that, maybe that person finds it very difficult to speak their truth. Maybe they find it very difficult to go into a situation where they're in what would may be considered as a confrontational situation. Hey, I'm ending this. And they don't have the bravery or the courage to do that, you know, to actually say, hey, this is over. I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. You know, if that's how they are, you know, then they're going to do that to the next person. Do you really want to be with somebody that responds and behaves in that way? I'm not sure that I would. You know, friendships are a bit different. They might have just got caught up. They might be busy. You know, they haven't responded to a message. But relationships, I just think, you know, that's if it's their way, then, you know, maybe you're better off without them.
Yeah, I agree. I'm back here thinking. I'm producing. I forgot I have to come back. I'm back here thinking what you're saying. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. I think that for myself, when that happened, I started questioning how I could get in a relationship with somebody who would do this to me, that what was wrong with me, that I entered a situation. But I feel like there are always signs. There's always red flags, and we see them and we think, oh, I can get over that, or it's not that big of a deal, or I can get him to change that. And then, of course, it's that old expression. I don't know if you have it in the UK, but a bad penny always turns up, or you can't change a leopard's spots, or any of those things. So
we have the same in England, and
yeah.
sometimes people just have to do their thing. They're in their pattern. They're sort of, you'll find that if they've done that to one person, they've done that to many people. And sometimes if one person cheats on a person, you will find that they're a serial cheater. So, this is their pattern. This isn't anything to do with you. They're just writing out their pattern and just happen to be in that space in the relationship. That the time has come for it to end because you don't need that lesson anymore. You've gained something from them. You've gained something from the relationship. And it's had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And sometimes we try to hold on to something that has, for want of a better phrase, passed its sell-by date. And there will be signs it's not working. There will be signs that, you're kind of forgiving them and you're saying, oh, well, he's just on an off day, or she's having a terrible time at work. We will be having those internal conversations and passing it off and, justifying, and excusing the behavior. But, if it's not working, it's not working. And whatever the couple do individually or as a couple, it's about letting go. And some people find it very difficult to let go in a graceful way.
Yes. And I feel like when people hold on to those patterns of behavior, typically, unless we're the first person, we're going to know about it. We're going to know that they're a serial dater or whatever the situation is. And yet we walk down that path and we have to say to ourselves, well, wait a minute. I saw this in the beginning. When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And I've talked about this before, I think on another episode, but it's one thing if you want to have the person change the way they dress. So for me, I'm not a fan of flip-flops at all, and especially not on men. You better have some really nice looking feet. I don't want to see them otherwise. So, so if your loved one is wearing flip-flops, yeah, maybe you can get them to change and wears loafers or closed-toe shoes or something. But if it's something where they've had this pattern of disruptive behavior for years, that you could actually call a list of people and say, he did it to you, he did it to you. And then you go in that door, you open that door and say, you know what, it's going to be different with me. I don't know. You're really giving yourself a lot of credit that you're that powerful to be able to change someone, because we can't change anyone, right?
No, we can't. And we shouldn't go into any relationship, whether it be a friendship or an intimate relationship, with the prerequisite of changing that person to be our ideal, because that's not what it's about. What we can do is change ourselves. If we're not comfortable with a behavior and a response to that behavior, we can change ourselves. And it's no good going into a relationship saying, I like this about that person, but I don't like this, and you're going to have to change or else I'm gone. That's an ultimatum. And we can't change a person by pushing them, because that will make them even more into that behavior of what you don't like, because whatever you're focusing on grows bigger. And so it's important to accept them for all of their faults, warts and all, because you might find that in accepting the person for everything who they are and how they're being, will actually drop down the things that aren't working, because you're then falling in love and having that wonderful friendship with the person that's real. And whatever is not real in that friendship or that relationship can literally just fall and leave. And so whatever is real will stay. So I would invite you to focus on the good things of that relationship or friendship, because when you focus on the good things, you get more of that, and there's less room for the poor behaviors to surface in that relationship.
Once again, another mind-blowing discussion. Thank you so much. And hopefully we have provided some value for people who are going through these situations. Again, you're not alone. Don't think of yourself as alone. Don't beat yourself up about it. When we shouldn't say don't, but support yourself in a way, a nurturing way, by doing what you can so you feel better. And reach out to Caroline. She is here to help you. She's got a great free 30-minute Zoom stress buster. So no matter where you are in the world, she also has a fabulous course on chakra psychology, which I'll be putting the link up. Caroline, tell us a little bit about the course.
The course essentially is a healing journey through the 7 physical chakras. It gives you insight, understanding, and awareness, a whistle-stop tour through the chakras to give you understanding of what symptoms can come up when there's imbalances in the different chakra areas. This can actually be also very healing, because in awareness, you can then start to reflect and change and handle the unexpressed emotions and feelings about that imbalance in that particular chakra. It's very powerful because in awareness of that symptom, it can literally melt the symptom, and then the emotions become freer, and then the pain, physical or emotional, can clear. I highly endorse the fact that when we are in an understanding, insight, and awareness of why things are the way they are, transformation is the next step. Without the awareness, we can't change anything. It's also a healing journey, because that state of being aware of the 7 chakras and the imbalances, what they can cause, will change the way that you feel. And once you know, you can't then unknow. It's like having the pink elephant in the room. Once you're aware, you can then not turn around and say, I'm not looking at that anymore. What you can do then is change things. And that's transformation.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing all of that. I would love for you to go ahead and give your contact information, and I'm going to pull up the course. That's what I was trying to do. So.
Right, you can reach me by email on NoMoreStress@live.co.uk and organise, book in your free 30-minute stress buster consultation. It's whatever symptom is coming up for you, whatever you're complaining about, whether it's relationship, physical, emotional, mental ache and pain, whatever it is that you are complaining about, there will be a root cause. And what I'm working with is root cause therapy to identify when this occurred, first of all, so that it literally obliterates your symptoms. So reach out to book in your consultation, either by Zoom or Skype or by call. You can call me on +44 if you're international. If you're local, 07523 120 189. I look forward to helping you bust your stress.
Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen so that people can actually see where to go to sign up for the course. Okay, so you can see at the top of the page, just go to drjacalyn.thinkific.com/collections, and you'll see here's Caroline's course. This course is by Caroline HEWARD, an introduction to the 7 major chakras, their meaning and their role in our healing journey. With over 2 decades of experience, Caroline has a license to practice on the famous Harley Street in London. So this is a great way for you to even give a gift to somebody, to help somebody who wants to learn more, and also give the gift of reaching out to Caroline directly so that people can start to feel better and enjoy the holiday season, enjoy their lives. So thank you again, Caroline, for being here. And so we're going to say goodbye for now. Our next show is coming up. It is the Pet Psychic Amina special about wildlife crossings. Before we go, I do have a couple of quick announcements. We have a new show coming up as a special. It's on Monday. The name of the show is Talking Peace Around the World. And we've got a panel of world-class broadcasters who are joining me to discuss peace. We've got Ian Pelham-Turner joining us from the UK. We've got Daisy, and she's joining us from, Australia. She's in Australia as well as Lebanon. She's going to be in Australia for the show. We have Helena. She's joining us from the UK. And we have Al joining us from the United States. So together, the amount of years of broadcasting between these people it's amazing. We also have the opportunity for you to go ahead and buy The Amazing Adventures of Lady Ella, the Listening Mentor, which I have to say, Caroline, I'm so excited because my book came last night. Yay!
Woo-hoo! Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. And I have to say, one of the cutest things was the book is dedicated to my great niece, and her mother sent a picture of her reading the book and looking at her picture, and I just started to cry. I just was like, oh my gosh, so beautiful. So you can actually go over and order your copy, pre-order your ebook, which is the second one. Caroline is the star of the first book. She is the owl, white owl named Tara. As you can see her there up in the tree, and she's also joining us for our, what is the next book? Is it the second or third? I can't remember, Caroline.
I'm coming to join you as a character on the third book.
The third book, Lady Ella has afternoon tea in London, and how appropriate because you're in London. The fourth book, she's going to Paris, which is one of my favorites. So also I want to welcome our new team member, Kendley Davenport. Welcome. Thank you for joining us as an elevated listener. And finally, we have our anniversary celebration, which is on January 15th. So do join us for that as well. And that's all for now. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful day. And we'll be back in less than 10 minutes. Bye.
Been an amazing show. Thank you, Dr. JACALYN.
Thank you. Bye.